How did I get started? It was stress. It was stress. I was raised in a family that had a lot of tension, just to put it mildly. Um, there was a lot of fighting, a lot of anger, and then a divorce when I was about 7 years old, which is at the time holistically when you're developing your communication, your heart center, or your throat center, and that's when you're learning to the value of being heard and feeling like you can speak your truth. So that was pretty much shut down for my entire life. I mean, nobody did anything on purpose. Everybody did the best they can. So this isn't a blaming your parents thing. So it's not that at all. I'm grateful for everything that has happened in my life because of where it has brought me today. I was stressed out to the point where I was having trouble even getting through my day. And I had 4 kids and I was divorced, and it was not a pleasant situation whatsoever. It was not an amicable divorce by any means. And so there was just constant war. I was in a war zone. Sometimes I joke and say that my marriage was 25 years hard time, which turned out to be more like 30 actually. But wow, what treasures, because I made it through, we all made it through, and we're all at peace now. And I'm here to tell you that's a miracle, just a miracle. But it was through pure stubbornness and determination to find the answer, to find peace. And I knew it was possible. I just knew that somehow things were going to be okay. And so I fought, and I fought for it. And I was determined, and I had like a laser lock on it, and on this peaceful, loving family that I always wanted. And boy, we earned it. All of us, we earned it. So I was stressed, and I didn't really feel like I could work for anybody because every time I turned around, something else was happening in my family, and people don't typically hire people that can't work. Just put it that way. There's just so much tension in the family, so many explosions and drama fest, and I was not anyone that anyone could count on to show up on a daily basis. But I still had to earn money, so I started coming up with my own things, and I put together a triathlon, and I put together a newspaper, and that was a holistic newspaper, and that was just before 2008. So the world came crashing down in 2008, and so that stopped things there. And so I started working with someone who was a Reiki practitioner, and I traded her advertisement, and she would give me sessions, and I would give her advertising in my newspaper. And I remember going in there and feeling such levels of peace that I never in my life knew existed. I didn't understand that. I thought that I had a great attitude. See, I was one of those people that had the best attitude. I'd always look at the bright side of everything. And I was burying all of the unpleasant emotions. I wasn't experiencing any of those. So I was just burying them. And I became like, I just got this image of like a spider trying to keep the corners down of something that keeps trying to get out. That was all those buried emotions. And when I was enjoying these Reiki sessions, sometimes I would go in there and just in an absolute panic, I'm not going to be able to relax. And next thing I know, she's patting my hand saying, whenever you're ready, you can come on back. I'm like, okay, so I'm not coming back. I'm going to stay right here. You just work around me, and I won't be in your way. But then she told me I was just afraid. And I thought, no, I'm not afraid of anything. And I just didn't understand what fear was, but I do now. So I am able now to have that peace in my life pretty much all day long. And if things bother me, I can just, oh, that's right, I don't need to be upset about that. Sometimes the PTSD in our family was so strong that we didn't even know we were experiencing it. And then we found out we were experiencing it. And then we started acknowledging it. And then we started kind of joking about it. I'm like, oh man, I'm so sorry. I was 3 miles down that PTSD road before I even knew I was on it. All right. And so then, and that helped even more. And so there's rarely a time when anybody launches into a PTSD experience anymore. We just have all dealt with it, and we all understand each other. We all understand that happened, and that we experienced this together, and we're going to come out of it together. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to learn so much about energy therapy. I don't call it Reiki anymore, because there's just more to it than just the laying on of hands and the other things that we learn in Reiki. I learned one time, well, back up just a little bit. My ex-husband was a workers' compensation magistrate or judge, and he, in his work capacity, scrutinized medical specialists for a living. And I used to help him type those opinions sometimes. And so I know the scrutiny that they went through. And I thought, yeah, right, I'm going to go practice on people. And I had a weekend training, right? So I started, and it was just out of pure fear that I started classes. And I ended up I thought maybe if I got a nursing degree that I could practice on people and it would be valid. And so I started taking chemistry, organic chemistry, anatomy and physiology 1 and 2, and I took holistic modalities and integrated medicine, transcultural healthcare, global health, Chinese medicine. I ended up taking 55 credit hours. In one of those classes, it was probably integrative medicine. The professor put an image on the screen of a body standing with the layers of the energy field circling it. And I looked at that. At this point, I was a Reiki master. And I'm looking at this. I don't know anything about that. I don't know what those rings mean. I don't know anything about that. And the problem is, that's where I work. And so that launched a whole new study, a little more informal education on top of the formal education. So I started studying the works of Cindy Dale, Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza, Teal Swan, Abraham Hicks, Donna Eden, and many more. So all of that information that started connecting, and I put things together, and I developed, or I should say I understood, because I discovered it. It's always been there. It's been there since probably the beginning of humans. There are holistic stages of development that we go through, and no matter what you do or where you are, you're going through these stages. Any change you go through, I should say. So whether you're born, you go through those stages, or you get a new job, or you get married, or you get divorced, or you get a new boyfriend, or you leave a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a relationship. All those things, you move your houses, you're going to go through those stages. And you're going to go through each one at a time. It might take 5 minutes. It might take 30 years, but you're going to go through every single one of those stages, and they're the same stages every single time. So I take those stages and explain those in a class. So we do, first it's an 8-week class, and we do an overview of that concept. It takes about 45 minutes to explain that whole concept. And then we go through each one of those stages. And the cool thing is if you miss that developmental stage while you were 6 months old, for some reason you weren't able to be in an environment where it nurtured that kind of development, you can always go back, or not even back. You can restore that, or build that, develop that right now. That's what I love about energy in this quantum universe that we live in. There's no space and time when you get into those kinds of things. In the holistic stages of development, there's no space and time. So now's the best time. Regardless of what happened in the past or what might happen in the future, now is the best time. So in an overview, they follow the same format as what we commonly know as chakras. So the root and the sacral, solar plex, the heart, the throat, the third eye, and the crown. And so each one of those is developed at specific time frames in your life, and then they're recycled, and then they're recycled again. So the first full developmental set is from birth till 21. So that's when that initial process of development is complete. So it's fun to walk through those stages. I know when one of my sons was going through some challenges, we started walking back and said, all right, when you were 14 years old, how was that experience for you? Because when you're 14, you are recycling your root chakra. And that is your stage of where you learn trust and you learn who your people are and you learn routine. But the flag you capture at that stage is trust. And so we recycle that at 14. And he had a wonderful time at 14. And said, all right, let's go to 15. So that's where the problem is. So we work to re-establish or redevelop or develop for the first time that stage, and that was the sacral stage. So who are your go-tos? Who are your partners? Who are your strategic partners and your relationships? And you have the trust so you feel comfortable in the security so you can open up and develop creativity. So this goes on up until your crown chakra where you are becoming one with the universe. What is your position? So if you're at work, you want to know what your job is. So because you're a part of a company, a bigger whole, what's your place in that bigger whole? So regardless of what the bigger whole is, what's your place in it? So in a nutshell, your root chakra, you're finding your grounding, you're finding your stability, your foundation, you develop the ability to trust. The sacral chakra is where you develop your creativity and your strategic partnerships. So when you're 2 years old, you're looking out for who's got your stuff and how do you get it. And you can make whatever cute face you want or however you get your stuff, you're going to get it. And it's cute when you're 2 to manipulate and, your parents are just like, oh, look at, she's fake crying. Isn't that cute? But if you never continue the developmental process, you do that. And people who are manipulative just didn't get a chance to probably develop their root chakra. That's my own personal theory. That if you don't develop that root and you don't develop that security and that foundation, then the likelihood of you developing your heart chakra or your heart center is unlikely. And I have that would be a great foundation for the PhD, but I haven't proven that yet or researched it, but that's just my personal philosophy that you need that foundation to open up your heart. And that just makes perfect sense. So sacral chakra, and then the solar plexus, and that's when the 3-year-old's running around going, oh, I'm strong, look at my muscles, and I can do anything, and they're just full of possibilities, and there's no boundaries, and they're running around all full of themselves, and it's adorable. And that lasts until 4.5 years old. So next up is kind of a leap. And the next step, and I got that from Spirit Science. Spirit Science that does a great job of explaining the frequencies and the chakras and how they're all laid out mathematically. So if you're into that kind of thing, then that's a great place to learn more too, is Spirit Science. Teal Swan also does a fantastic job of explaining how to develop. She calls it opening, I think. I call it development, but how to nurture your energy centers. She does a fantastic job of doing that with food and colors and everything, everything, stones, you name it. She covers it in her videos. So the heart chakra, that's about compassion and seeing other people's opinions and having compassion for other people. And you might say to somebody, an adult, or about somebody, like, well, they are acting like a 4-year-old. Well, it's because they are developmentally, they are 4. Because they never had opportunity when they were 6 months old or under 6 months old to develop the opportunity to open up develop the opportunity to have trust, to open up their heart center. So that's why some people act like that. And that to me really helped. It helped me understand why people act like that. Why? It's like, don't they see that that's hurting someone? No, they don't. Any more than a 3-year-old sees that it hurts somebody. So when they're acting like that, it's because they weren't blessed with the opportunity to establish that security to open their heart chakra, or to open their heart center, or develop it. So from the heart center, then it's next is the throat, and that's where we develop our compassion. That's where we develop our authenticity, and we speak our truth, as some people refer to it as. So speaking our truth, or feeling heard is another one. Another aspect of a healthy throat energy center is when you feel heard and you're able to hear other people. And it's a communication. I guess that's pretty much it. So then the next stage is your third eye. And that's developed between the ages of 8.5 and 14 years old. And that's when we start developing our wisdom, and we develop our ability to process complex thoughts. Kind of like, that it's somewhere in that is when the age of algebra comes in. So lots of moving parts, and you're able to figure it all out. And you start using the language, I see. Isn't that interesting? That's the brow chakra, the third eye. And we say, oh, I see. Oh, yes, I understand. I see. And we use that terminology. So there's so many phrases that we use that are energetically based. It's kind of fun to pay attention to that sometime and listen to yourself speak, and it's related directly to our energy centers. So the next one is your crown chakra, and that energy center is when you, like I mentioned earlier, when you are finding your place in the larger picture. So if you are a body organ, say you're a kidney, your kidney functioning in a system where other units are functioning, and you all work together to maintain the health of the larger whole, which is your body. So the same with a team. You're going to play a position on a team, so you know what your position is on the team. You might switch positions, but you still know your spot, and you know what to do in that role to benefit the larger picture. So that's a really significant level of maturity, when you can not have to be the whole, or it's not all about you anymore. It's about you are understanding your role in the larger picture. So those are the holistic stages of development. And so when you reach the 8.5 to 14, and so this one's 14 to 21. So when you're 14, you're going to recycle your root chakra. When you're 15, you're recycling your sacral chakra. When you're 16, you're recycling your solar plexus. When you're 17, it's your heart, it's energy center. When you're 18, it's your communication center. And when you're 19, it's your third eye. And when you're 20, you're developing your crown chakra along with the first round of your crown chakra. So then it becomes complete. When you're 21, job is done. Yay. So that's how long it takes to cycle. And then Cindy Dale's book, I think it's the Anatomy, Subtle Body Encyclopedia. And she goes into different indigenous cultures, but in that book, she clearly spells out the ages and the stages, and she goes on until probably at least 100 years old, when you recycle what you're processing each time that you go through each stage and recycle things. So it's really, really good information. She has a couple other chakra books too. I'm sure the information is in those as well. So she's a tremendous resource that I rely upon heavily. So that's the holistic stages of development. Other things are this plexus method that I discovered that, as we know, that our bodies tell a story. Different body parts tell a story. And sometimes, we've heard things like, when your lower back hurts, it means something emotionally. What's connected to that, and your left side of your body, your right side of the body, and it's amazing that the story that your body tells. And you can tune into somebody's energy field, so they don't even have to be there. You can just use an ironing board, set up your ironing board, and just imagine a body there, and just scan along it and see what you feel. And you might, where you're imagining their hand to be, or their body might actually be there, and you're hovering over their hand. You're not touching them, you're just in the energy field over it. So you can feel the energy. And let's say on their left hand, you feel this energy, and it's buzzing, but their hand doesn't hurt, but it's buzzing. So you know that something's going on with this left hand. Well, the left side is your feminine energy. So it's the yin, it's internal stuff, it's intuition, it's feelings, and all of those kinds of things. So it would mean that whatever we physically do with our bodies, we also emotionally do them. So we use the expression, like the energetic expressions, getting a grip or letting go. So maybe if you're feeling energy over somebody's hand, they might be trying to get a grip on something, or they might be trying to let go of feelings, or trying to get a grip on a creative process, something internal, but something to do with the hands. So what we do with the hands is we either let go of something, or we get a grip on something, or maybe slap something. I don't know. But so whatever you do with or punch, yes, or punch, I heard that. So whatever you physically do with your body. And then, when you're scanning over somebody, you just intuitively, you really do just kind of know. And you like, wow, do you want to punch something? And it just pops into your head. And so you can, if you're working with a client, then that's a nice way to communicate with them about, it gives them information about what's going on in their body. So you might feel something on their knee too, or you might feel something on the bottom of their foot. You might feel the energy from the bottom of the foot or the top of the foot. All of that means something different. And it is so fun to scan somebody's energy field and give them information. And it is ridiculously accurate. So you can scan over their head. Ooh, got a lot on your mind? And that, that sometimes they're processing thoughts, and you can feel them like way out. And the same thing, another cool part of that is if you want to go deep on that, you can, okay, is it on their hand, on the skin itself? Because that is the root chakra. So maybe something as, you're trying to get a grip on who you are, or how you feel about who you are, or is it one layer up? And you just do it intuitively. So if it's on the hand, or if it's one layer up, you might say that's the sacral chakra. Strategic partnerships, you're trying to get a grip on who your partners are, or something about that. Or the third level is you're trying to gain personal power over your feelings, maybe, or maybe you're trying to gain some power over their personal control, maybe, over a creative project. Maybe it's all over the place, and you're trying to get a grip on it, and you're trying to understand that all the moving parts, and they're not coming together, and you're trying to get it together. So that could be. So you can go through each one of the layers, and it doesn't matter how far. It's all intention. So you just imagine. You think about first layer, and you can feel in your hand. Does it buzz more? How about the second layer? Does it buzz more? Third more? And you can actually feel the difference in the energy field. One time, quick story, working on a client, and the whole seventh layer around her was, it just, I got this image of bubbling acid. And by chance, are you upset with the world? Because it's the larger whole, because it's in line. Each layer is the energy center. It directly correlates with the energy center layers. So she was upset with the world, and she was working with a client that this client was not taken care of, and she was very upset with the system, and she was upset with the whole world, and it showed up in her energy field. So It's crazy how accurate that is. So that's a lot of fun to do that. So I also teach about the scale of emotions, and I learned most of that from Abraham Hicks, and there's also the Master Key series. That's a great, so you can access that on YouTube as well. And there's so much about the law of attraction and how we feel, and we attract what we feel. And I, anytime I take those tests about left brain, right brain, I'm right in the middle. So I like structure, and I like to understand the math of things. So how I understood the scale of emotions is at one end, you're a mess. It's like a jagged, and that's like anxious and miserable, I would say. And so if you put that wave out into the universe, you're going to get that back from the universe. You're only going to attract what matches, okay? So if a lot of bad things are happening to you, it might very well be because you're putting that vibe out and you're getting that back. So whatever you put out, you're putting out a roadway back to you. But only things that match it can come back to you. And then if you're really angry, or you're really whipping up a lot of emotions about that thing, then you're really magnetizing it. You're putting a lot of magnetic energy into it. So you're going to put that out there, you're going to get it right back. And so here's the thing. It's a continuum. But first I'll tell you about the other end. What if this nice, smooth, easy going, you ever just walk into a room and it's like, wow, it's so nice here. I just don't want to leave. It feels so good here. And it's like everybody's got this easy flow going, and you're enjoying that, and they're enjoying that. And then you put up that, momentum on that. It's like, and then you start like with appreciation and gratitude, and then that starts increasing. And so then you put that out into the universe, and guess what comes back? Amazing things. Drive down the road, all the lights turn green. It's amazing. And my son needed a taillight for his bike, and he was riding his bike on the road, and there was a taillight. It absolutely amazing. This taillight, there's nothing wrong with it. It was just there. And it's like, he would return it if there's any chance of finding an owner for it. But it's just amazing how things just literally drop out of the sky. And it's because you have this beautiful, easygoing vibe, and you amp it up with gratitude and compassion, and that's what you get back. And some people's lives, you're like, you are so blessed. Well, that's why. And get this, you have control. You can control this by changing your vibe. And the quickest way to do it is through gratitude. Just expressing gratitude, just like something. I don't care what it is. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you like. So you could say, I love that color. And think about how much you love that color, and just really allow yourself to feel that love of that color. And then start thinking how grateful you are to have the opportunity to look at that color, and that you can choose things to be around you that are that color, and you can start amping that up. And then you start seeping into other areas of your life. You start expressing gratefulness to other things. And so it takes practice. It took me a long time to get there, to be able to do that. I mean, I was cynical. I thought I was cheerful. And looking back, no, I wasn't. I was a perfectionist. I was miserable. I was depressed. I was full of ego. I was a mess. Now, I'm probably still a mess, but I'm a happy mess now. So that matters. It really matters. And I use these tools to continue my growth, because it's never ending. We're human beings, and it continues and it continues. Our growth continues and continues. It's like a circle, like rings of a tree. We have this comfort zone, and then something happens and it breaks it down, and we're not comfortable anymore. And then we deal with it, and then we expand our comfort zone, and then it happens again. And when I was taking chemistry, there's a chemical reaction and everything is humming along, evenly. It's a homeostasis. Then there's a disturbance dropped in, and then it goes into chaos, and then it reaches a new equilibrium. And I just, wow, that's what humans do. It is so amazing. And it's true. That's what happens. And that leads me to the next thing. I'm going to back up. I'm going to go back to the continuum. So we got that jagged edge over here, and we got that nice, easy over here. So just imagine that on a continuum. That continuum is enormous. So way over on this side, you've got that jagged edge, and way over on this side, this nice, smooth edge. And so if you're on the smooth edge, that jagged edge is so far away, you can't see anything that comes from that. Or if you're at that jagged edge, you can't see anything on that peaceful end. And the funny thing is if you're at that peaceful end and somebody's at that jagged end and they get near you, it is so repulsive. Or if you're at that jagged end and somebody peaceful comes near you, it is so repulsive because it's just not a match, that's all. It's just not a match. And that makes it easier, for me anyway, to understand and to have compassion, because it's all about compassion. If you understand that somebody's there, and then you can ease them, help them ease towards you, or towards a higher vibe, then you can relate to them. So if you're in a tight relationship with somebody, that might help you understand. It's like, oh, that's just where they are, and you're where you are, and you can have patience with people, and it saves so many arguments. It really does. It's just, when you can understand that kind of a perspective on human nature, then it just gives you so much more patience and understanding, and the ability to express compassion towards other people and to yourself, because you can just say to yourself, that's just where I am right now, and I know I need to get over here. And so you start the process over there, and then you have control. And that's the coolest thing, is when you have control, and when you know the road, you've got the map. You're like, okay, I'm here and I want to go there. And it's like, all right, here's the map. And you can just go there. It's just so nice to have that control and those tools, those resources to make that happen for you. So what was the other thing that I was going to say? Scale of emotions, we covered that. Stress. PTSD. Rebuilding. Comfort zones.